Hello there. Yes, Brexiteer and former Brexit Party MEP Ben Habib is right on the money when he says that the Tories have bottled it with Brexit. Now, if you haven't already done so, please do subscribe, click the little bell, select all, and then like and comment below. Despite having illegally left the EU on the 31st of January 2021, the UK is still joined at the hip with the bloc and looks like not moving away anytime soon under the Tories. And one of the biggest sellouts is the continuation of the Northern Ireland Protocol. Now, when that was first mooted, it was sold by both the UK government and the EU Commission as a light touch arrangement that would respect all facets of the Belfast Agreement. But in the final few weeks in the run-up to Brexit Day, stories started to emerge from the EU negotiating side that they intended to use the protocol as a lump hammer and a wedge to break Northern Ireland away from the rest of the UK. What was touted as light touch across the Irish Sea morphed overnight into just about the heaviest regulated border the EU has. As a result, we've seen a diversion of trade away from UK companies, something that the proper use of Article 16 could address. And there's been a heightening of tensions where the now totally ignored unionist community is concerned. All because the EU went back on its word and cannot be trusted. And all those claiming that ever harsher enforcing of the protocol is the answer do not know what they're on about. The UK should have taken a firmer stance right from the start. And at the first signs of trade diversion hitting British companies, Article 16 should have been triggered as appropriate. But as with City of London reforms to free it up, the Tory government, first under Boris Johnson and then under Rishi Sunak, are more interested in making sure the EU is okay, rather than looking after the interests of the UK. Talking to the Express, Ben Habib said, "We either have the courage to break with the EU and take control of our own country, in which case Brussels is going to be upset, or we comply and we take a knee to the EU, and at the moment our government is taking a knee to the EU. The Tories have this fantastic mandate and even had a majority with which to fully deliver Brexit, but they bottled it." And he went on to say that Brexit will not be properly achieved until the UK has fully left the clutches of the EU and the jurisdiction of its ECJ as one united country, including Northern Ireland. He also points to commitments in terms of state aid law, competition law, employment law, and even net zero. The UK is still joined at the hip by the EU, so clearly we still don't have Brexit. Now, we are starting to hear warm, purring noises from Brussels about the new pragmatic approach being taken by Rishi Sunak over Brexit issues like the protocol. And Ursula von der Leyen says she's very confident that an acceptable protocol deal can be found as long as the UK is willing. Willing to do what? Sign up to some or all parts of the single market to be once again under EU control that puts the whole UK under ECJ jurisdiction again? If Rishi were to do that, he'd be finished overnight. But whatever Starmer says, Labour will do it given half the chance, or even a tenth of that. Now, the Remoaners are out in force right now, trying to convince people that their cost of living woes are all down to Brexit. And they happily ignore the impact of the 2008 credit crunch that is still unwinding, the pandemic, the Russia-Ukraine war, and now the strikes. They ignore them all. It's like those global events, yes, global, that have had a massively detrimental effect on our economy never happened. The credit crunch was global, and many central banks still have assets related to quantitative easing in their vaults. And as they unwind that, it has an impact. The pandemic was global and hit every economy, and right now China is going through the ringer with it, and that's going to affect everyone. The Russia-Ukraine war is affecting everyone across the planet, especially those who rely on Russian gas and on grains from Ukraine. And there are strikes going on in many countries around the world as they try to get an uplift in their pay to beat the global inflation spike. And Argentina, France and Spain have seen riots over football of all things. No, don't fall for it. Ramonas are disingenuously using these events and pinning them all on Brexit. Except for the football riots, of course. Although given the opportunity, I bet they would. Now, the Express is also running a poll on whether or not the UK Prime Minister Rishi Sunak should use Article 35 of the 1998 Scotland Act to prevent the new SNP gender law from being given royal assent. And when I did the poll, it stood at 96% yes to stopping the law and only 4% saying no. But the SNP supporters will claim that this is because there will be a lot of non-Scottish residents voting in the poll. And my answer to that is, the fact this law would impact directly on the people in the rest of the UK, then yes, we do have the right to air our views on this matter. And I hope Keir Starmer is taking note after his pronouncements in favour of England and Wales adopting similar laws. Anyway, something's got Richard all riled up.
Thank you, Jeff. Full-time national embarrassment, World Economic Forum stooge and unelected Prime Minister Rishi Sunak has given his Christmas message, with pretty much zero attention paid to Christ, whom the festival celebrates the birth of. Yes, I know the timing of Christmas is basically tagged on the back of old pagan festivals, but this is the date that has been agreed by the Church to celebrate Christ's birth. So why doesn't our Prime Minister give Jesus a good mention on the most celebrated day of the Christian faith, and the most celebrated of all Christian festivals? Well, it doesn't take a rocket scientist to work that one out. But hey-ho, what were you expecting from him? Instead, the Prime Minister, who rushes to celebrate other faiths, chose to focus his Christmas message on that wonderful Christmas thing of ringing random people up in a staged bit of footage and then disingenuously saying, "Well done." Yes, how Christian. We already have a team of expensive and useless professional disingenuous congratulators, thank you, Mr. Sunak. They're called the Royal Family. We don't need you to do it, especially considering nobody elected you or respects you. Was I the only one left wondering how many people Rishi Sunak had to phone up without being told to f*** off before he managed to get through to someone brain dead enough to gush over him like he is some sort of Hollywood superstar? So we have a government fronted by a puppet that resorts to cheap gimmicks for PR stunts. If you are considering voting Tory, please take your meds and call Nurse to make sure you put the cross in the right place in your postal vote. Yes. Oh, and that will be the Reform box you will have to tick. Just ignore the Conservative box. It's a misprint, honestly. Anyway, ignore that imposter in Downing Street and his pathetic utterances. So I ask you to do this at Christmas time. Spare a thought for he that suffered unimaginable pain for you and died for you, even if you don't believe in him. And I will see you, yes, see you tomorrow on Christmas Day. Back over to you, Jeff.
Thank you, Richard. And finally, when subscribing, please don't forget to press that little bell and also select the all option, or you won't get any notifications when I publish a new video. And thank you all so much for taking the time to watch the show.